On New Year's Eve, Cobra Kai Season 4 was released, and since that is my favorite show of all time, it's time to talk about Season 4 of Cobra Kai. I just want to start off by saying that this season was a disappointment. That said, I still liked it and thought it was pretty good, but I just had a lot more problems with this season than I did with Season 3. Now granted, Season 3 left off on such a high note that disappointment was inevitable. But what they did with this season, introducing new characters and making some older characters have bigger roles in this, I just wasn't a fan of. There was a new character that was being bullied by Anthony, Daniel's son, but both of their characters just weren't good in this season. I was very surprised to learn that it was the same actor playing Anthony from Season 1 all the way to Season 4, because since then he's lost a lot of weight and his voice has definitely changed, so I didn't recognize him at all, and I honestly thought that they recast him. But the way they wrote his character, I just didn't believe. Daniel is such a nice guy, and then his son being this mean and being such a bully to this kid, I just didn't believe. And also, this new kid, the actor playing him was fine, but I just don't know why they had to introduce him into this season, because he just felt shoved into there, and I didn't really believe the progress that he made in karate. Seeing Terry Silver come back was awesome, and see him go from like this actual good man and then progress through the season to becoming even crazier and crazier like he was in Karate Kid Part 3 was pretty cool, and John Kreese was just as good as ever. I mean, his character is good, but I don't like him because he's a villain and he does bad things, but that's how you're supposed to feel like with villains. Seeing Johnny and Daniel come together to try to beat Cobra Kai was awesome, but just like they did in Season 3, they made them get along at first, but then have a fight and then they make their own dojos again. I wish that I could just see Daniel and Johnny team up and get along, because that would honestly be a really cool thing. And since they set that up in Season 3 and then they just kind of abandoned it after a couple episodes in this season, that was kind of disappointing. Seeing Aisha make a cameo in this was awesome, because I was wondering why they wrote her out of the show in Season 3. It was probably because the actress didn't want to return or something, but it was still nice to see her again, and I'm glad that Sam and her had a little moment in the series. Obviously, Stingray was nice to have come back, because after the fight at the school in Season 2, he was on probation, so I see why they didn't have him in Season 3, but it was still nice to see him come back at the end, and having him come back, it made for a huge cliffhanger at the end that I will touch upon later. I loved seeing Hawk's personality change throughout this entire series. At first, he was this innocent kid that got beat up, but then once he joined Cobra Kai, he completely changed his perspective on life, and he turned into what he didn't like at first. He turned into a bully. So then it was really satisfying to see him change in Season 3, even though it felt kind of rushed. But in this season, it was still really nice to see him as a nice kid, even though we still saw glimpses of him being a kind of mean person like he was in Season 2 and 3. The haircut obviously dramatically changed his character somehow, but once again, in this season, just like in Season 3, I wasn't a huge fan of Robbie's character. In Season 3, he was very much sidelined, so he would be in jail, and then for a couple episodes, they would focus on him, and then for a couple, they would just leave him out entirely, and that was really off-putting for me. So in this season, having him be a Cobra Kai student, that's a pretty good idea, but throughout the entire season, we see him go back and forth from being a nice person to a bad person, and that really clashed for me sometimes. Honestly, this entire season was pretty confusing with I didn't know whether some characters were good or bad. Tori started off bad and then slowly started to be better and better throughout the entire series until the last episode where she started to be kind of selfless. Same thing happened with Kreese. He invited Terry Silver to help him with Cobra Kai so they would win the tournament at the end, which they did, even though Terry Silver cheated. But at the end of the tournament, Kreese kind of told Tori that she could do whatever she wanted and she didn't have to pick a certain style. And I didn't know whether he was going to turn bad or good, but I'm thinking in Season 5, since Terry Silver got him arrested after Terry Silver beat Stingray up and then told him to tell the police to say it was Kreese, I'm thinking that Kreese is going to be on the good side, surprisingly, in the next season, because he is enemies with Terry Silver now. I know for sure, because Terry Silver put him in jail. And that was very interesting but also confusing to see. I didn't know whether these characters were going to turn good or bad, and I wish that they would just have like a solid personality so that we know, but then if they want to change, there was more progression in their character development. And also, I didn't really know how I felt about Miguel's character in this season. I felt bad for Johnny because he wanted to talk to Miguel, but Daniel LaRusso was kind of taking that time away from him, and I wanted them to have like an even amount of time together because I loved seeing the relationship between Johnny and Miguel in season 3. But that kind of stopped in this season because of Daniel and also seeing Carmen and Johnny hook up. There were some really sad moments in this season, there were some really happy moments in this season, but there were also a lot of disappointing moments in this season. But overall, the last couple episodes really brought it up for me because I absolutely loved the final episode. The cliffhanger that they brought up upon us was incredible. I knew that they renewed it for season 5 and maybe even 6 beforehand, but I didn't know how they were going to lead it into the next season without just having Cobra Kai win the tournament. They did win the tournament, but we see that Terry Silver was paying the referee to have Cobra Kai win, so without Terry Silver, Miyagi-Do, or Eagle Fang probably would have won. But overall, this season was kind of disappointing because how amazing season 3 was, but I still really liked it, and I think I'm going to give it a 7.5 out of 10. But that's my review of Cobra Kai Season 4. What did you think of it? Did you think it lived up to your hype, or did it disappoint you like it did with me? Tell me all of that down in the comments section. But with that said, stay tuned and subscribe to Cinema Ranks.